So now once you have pretty much the arm and everything squared away, you've got two blocks here, two small blocks, and basically it's made out of the 2x2, and on the long side, let me see if I can get this where you can see it. From the long point to the flat edge, the back flat edge, from the long point that is 1.5 inches. And then from the short point to the back is 3/4 of an inch. And that is cut, it's a 28-degree cut. So basically if you had 1.5 inches long block of this 2x2, cut it at 28 degrees, back to 3/4, you're good. And those get mounted on the front, flush with the front. They're going to be right behind that angle iron we're going to screw on here. And they get mounted to where the back side gets mounted to that 2x4 flush with the front. So your long point should be closest to where that angle, the front of the 2x4 here. And 2x2 has a tendency of splitting. I'm going to pre-drill, but at the same time I'm going to be screwing my C-clamps in here. I got to drill through the C-clamps and screw them on here. So I need to attach this in a way that I'll be able to get a screw in there, and the screw that attaches it to the 2x4 isn't intruding. Add some glue. And this end grain will tend to soak up that glue, so I'm going to be quite generous with it. And what I think I'm going to do for now is just blue tape it in place until that glue sets up, and then I can go ahead and drill and screw my C-clamps in there, and that'll take care of everything. You ever heard of trial and error? I try to do it with trial with no errors. I'm going to do the same thing for the other piece. And that'll be fine to hold that on until the glue dries. Now on the back eye hooks here, 1.5 inches from the front of this 2x4, 1.5 inches back, and 1 inch in from the side of the the outside in, 1 inch in, 1.5 inches back, and that's where I put the eye hook, and I went ahead and attached the springs. Now those springs will get attached to the turnbuckles, and then the turnbuckles are going to get attached to the eye hooks that are up here in the arm. I'm going to set those eye hooks 1.5 inches back from this little piece that's glued on here, 1.5 inches back, right in the center. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You got to see this. Right out of the package, and I don't know if you can see that without it getting blurry, but it's an eye hook with no threads. What's up with that? Alright. I'll be in. So, what to do, what to do? And I only bought 2 packs. That's why you buy extra hardware. Alright, well, can't believe that thing made it out of the factory that way. But I'm sure they don't have quality control on every screw. But you never know. And essentially, you just tighten up your turnbuckle to, if your arm wants to like fall a little bit, or it seems like it's going to fall, use the turnbuckle to tighten it up to add tension to the spring to make sure it stays up in that upright position. And there we go. Alright, so now we're getting somewhere. Now there's a thing called an off contact, and it gets mounted. It's just a bolt with a threaded insert, and it goes up under this arm. Well guys, I'll get back to this in just a minute, but it's officially my birthday right now, September 17th. So I'm going to take a break for a second. There's a lot of people on Facebook wishing me happy birthday and everything, so I want to go reply to them, so you know, to acknowledge their birthday wishes. And I'll get back to this in just one second. So guys, where I'm at now is I've got the angle iron mounted to the front of this, and I'll show it. I'll turn the camera around to the front so you can see. But what I'm getting ready to do now is I went ahead and clamped the C-clamp on the angle iron and up against that little block that we just glued on there. And I ended up finding out where the C-clamp was going to go, mark where I need to drill my hole, and then what I ended up doing is I ended up marking kind of the back side of the C-clamp, and it showed me where the C-clamp went to and all. And I went ahead and added a screw in and just countersunk it into this little block. Alright, so I've got the C-clamp drilled, and now I'm just going to clamp it in place so I can pre-drill and screw it in. Alright, so for a front view of the printing press, basically this is it. I've got the angle iron mounted on. I mounted on with 3 screws into the face of this 2x4, and I recessed the screws so they're flat. That way my screen, or screens, whatever screen I'm using, will register flat up against that angle iron, and then I can clamp it down. And what I'm going to do is I picked up some of these 1.5-inch washers, and I'm going to epoxy them to the bottom of the C-clamp arm. Let me move out of the way so you can see that, to give that C-clamp foot right there a bigger footprint when holding down the screens and stuff. And then, like I said, I need to apply the off contact, which is going to be a threaded insert into the base here, and it'll have a bolt that screws up and down, and I'm going to epoxy one of these on top of that too. And what that does is you adjust it up and down, and it adjusts the height of this arm. When the arm is down and you have your platen in your shirt, it adjusts the arm so that your screen is sitting about a 1/16 of an inch above your material and stuff, for when you squeeze it and all. That way the screen's not sitting right on the shirt. It pushes down and then it pops up, leaving the ink and stuff. So what I need to do now is go ahead and do the insert. I got these 3/8 inch bolts, nuts, and washers, and they go through there if I was mounting it to a tabletop, you know, for permanent mounting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this to a probably a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood that's the same size as my downdraft table here, so I can set it on top of the downdraft table and be able to clamp it down into place, and it won't move while I'm printing. And with this being such a small footprint, it's really not that big, I can hang it up on the wall out of the way, you know, when I'm not printing and everything. It'll be just like another jig on the wall. Now I can go ahead and I can round over these edges so none of them get caught up on the shirts, you know, as I slide them on and off, and get ready to mount the hardware, the brackets underneath the bottom where it will grip onto that arm of the printing press. Earlier in the video I talked about the springs when I was attaching them. I went ahead and I went with a little bit bigger springs, as far as a little bit fatter, because when the press itself is not real heavy, but when you add these C-clamps in and the angle iron and then the weight of the actual screen, you know, kind of on the end, the smaller springs wanted to fall down, and no matter how much I tightened the turnbuckles, it still didn't want to hold them up. So I went with a little bit fatter spring, a little bit heftier, and now it's like a champ. I mean, it holds it into place and it does exactly what I need it to do. This is not my plan, this is not my pattern or anything. Another gentleman, another YouTuber that does screen printing for a living, and his t-shirt logo, Living Country, And really great guy, and he made this press, and this is what he uses in his, his press shop. And so I'm going to leave a link to his video right here because, he shows his press. He also has a drying station, which is really cool. Unfortunately, I do not have that kind of room in my shop to set up that drying station, but it's absolutely outstanding how he built that. And he went through his video and said, this is this long, this is that long, and everything. And he didn't show the build. He just showed what it was for anybody that wanted to make one. So I decided to make one, and in the process show you my build. So if you ever want to try screen printing in your home, this is a handy little press. I mean, it's a one color press. There's a young lady out there on YouTube that took this press idea and she added a Lazy Susan and a second arm, the second arm mechanism on the other side, and she can flip it around and do a two-color press. And you could actually, I mean, depending on how big you want or how much room you have in your shop, you could add 2 more arms and make it a 4-color printing press. I mean, using this basic footprint, the limits are the possibilities are unlimited. And that Lazy Susan, it works out perfect. Everything just, you lift this up, spin it around, drop your next one down, everything is lined up and aligned perfectly as far as your shirts, and you can do your second color. It's great. But for my shop, I wanted a 1-color press. And that's what I've got here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the build, and I'll show you the final layout of it in just a second. Alright guys, well here's the printing press. I've just finished the platen, and as you can see, I went ahead and epoxied and screwed the cross pieces on that fit just right around this 2x4 platen arm, and I've got this locking nut on this cross piece. So that way all I have to do is slide this into place and lock it down. Get them centered on, and then I'm ready to print. Once I run the ink, I can raise this off, slide the shirt off, and have it ready for the drying process. As always guys, until next time, see you soon.